All right, everybody. I hope you are doing well. Welcome. Hey, Meezer Mom. Hey, Critters. Thing one. Yeah, this is going to be very short tonight. I am womped out, tired. Um, Been a long week, and it is only Wednesday. But I wanted to comment. I'm looking for the video. For the moment that they came in and informed, this may be it, when they came in and told them that they had a bomb threat today during the Murdaugh trial. um I want to talk about something related to my topic tonight. My topic is Murdaugh money and motive. Right now, it's not simply money and motive; it's the Murdaugh money and motive. I've been listening to a few different people, and it seems that for some, they really don't like. Yeah, see, all these videos are showing outside the courtroom after they were called out of court, but I want the moment where they were in court and they came and told them that they had a bomb threat. So I know I had it earlier at my office. I should have clipped it then and uploaded it, but I was in a hurry, of course. Well, I may have to leave that part out because I'm too tired to find it. Not that I don't care about you guys. I do care so much. But I can tomorrow, not tomorrow cuz I work 12 hours tomorrow again. Um Friday I can be sure to pull that clip and go ahead and comment on it what I was going to do tonight. I sure thought that a lot of people would have clipped that by now. Let me see if this is it. Maybe. Maybe I just found it. I really thought that was going to be like a big deal, that everybody would have clipped it and you could see it at the moment. But I'll have it ready Friday, okay? Because I don't want to waste any more time searching for it. I want to get on with my topic, and then Friday I'll do the clip with the bomb threat and go ahead and comment on what I wanted to. But let me just go ahead and make this, okay? This observation. So I think that there are a lot of people who in the true crime community who they don't like the addition of the money, right? They don't like the financial crimes now being bulked in with the murder trial. So, what about you guys? Does it bother y'all? Do you wish that we were not dealing with the financial issues? Or can you look at the financial issues as just another piece of evidence and not this full blown trial within a trial? I don't think that, this trial is about the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. And I just because they're putting in information about what happened on June the 7th, what all um, Alec Murdaugh experienced in during the months leading up to that fateful day, and then the actual events of his day before he found himself there at the kennels with his family murdered. That is not a trial within a trial. They're not. Nobody's been charged with financial crimes. Nothing like that. The reason that they're introducing the supporting information, like when one of like the CFO comes up and she talks about, along with her support staff, her paralegals, they talk about the process that they went through to uncover that this money was being misappropriated, or that I think it was money laundering. I think that's the whole point of what he's been doing was money laundering. And because they're testifying to what their experience was in the office and what they had uncovered him doing, and that they had this forensic accounting analysis going on, and the checks that are being provided as evidence, or the emails that, copies of emails that were sent back and forth between, companies, those things are not being provided in terms of proving a crime. Those things are being provided because of this whole hearsay problem. They can get up and testify about what they did and what they said, but they need something to offer that shows, no, what I'm saying is accurate. I've got the right date, and I've got the right time, and I've got this. But they're not trying the case of his financial crimes, not by a long shot. They're establishing what his state of mind was on June the 7th, in my opinion. Now, if you go back and look at the video that I made, I don't even know how many days ago, because I've been working so much, so I lose track of time. 2 days ago, 3 days ago, but I put up a video about narcissistic collapse. And if you hold on a minute, I'll tell you the exact name of that video so you can go and watch it if you haven't already watched it. But I went into a great deal of detail about narcissistic collapse and what that is. It was called Motive, and it was done 5 days ago. And I'm going to put the link in, and then the mods can share it, and y'all can go back and watch this. So the reason I'm saying this is because my contention is that Murdaugh was in narcissistic collapse. Okay, there's the link to that video. So Murdaugh, Alec was in narcissistic collapse on June the 7th. He had been playing the shell game for a very long time, and he was the product of a multi-generation family that capitalized off of illegal gains. They were moonshine runners, they were drug runners. They did a lot of underhanded, shady things, and the law firm gave them credibility. The law firm shielded them from what they were, the things that actually made them their fortune. Their fortune did not come from fees, from whatever their legal fees were. The fortune, I believe, based on the history that you go back and read about this family, it was made from the illegal drug trade, starting way back with, bathtub gin. There were multiple, throughout history, starting with the great-grandpa, there were multiple events where they were almost caught. There were multiple times throughout history where they almost got revealed to be what they were. And I think that earning that law degree, the first law degree in the family, establishing a legitimate business law firm, using the purchase of land and resale of land, that's one of the best money laundering schemes that there is, that remains legal today. And so we have to be very, very careful that the facade that has been created, not just by Alec, I think it was the family lineage. I think this was the climate in the home, right? I think the men taught the boys how to inherit the fortune and what they had to do to keep it going. And part of what they had to do, they're making tons of money from drugs and alcohol and the things that were illegal at the time. They're making tons of money. So in order for it to be seen as legitimate money by the IRS, they have to clean it somehow. They have to show some kind of transfer of money that says this was not ill-gotten gains. This was some legitimate cash that was earned. Okay, so that sets the stage. And so Alec is the young prince, right? He's the one who's going to inherit the fortune. And then he begins wheeling and dealing, and now he's trying to preserve the family fortune, but also add to it, correct? And they need that law firm in order to get away with what they're doing behind the scenes. They need it. Now, it doesn't mean that all the attorneys there, I think, were involved in this. That's not what I'm saying, not by a long shot. If everybody there is breaking the law, then how do they get away with it? It can't be. That's the whole point of organized crime, is they have to find a legitimate business that's really working and operating according to the law, and then slowly begin to do things behind the scenes that nobody's going to catch. And that's the way that they clean the money, right? So I think that this Boulware family, the Barrett Boulware's dad had been really good friends with Alec Murdaugh's dad, and they were breaking the law together from generations ago. And now you've got Barrett Boulware's son, Barrett, and Alec, and their buddy. They don't care. Alec and Maggie are going out to dinner with this couple, and the Boulwares were known to be organized crime. It was accepted. People knew what they were doing with their boats and the different islands. Alec owned his own islands, Williams Island, some other stuff out there. People knew what they were up to. People knew what they were doing. They may not be saying that in the courtroom, but you can go back through newspapers, and when you put that story together, this was a multi-generation, long-term family relationships with some really shady dealings, right? So you got to imagine that, Alec he's the crown prince, and it's all been turned over to him. It's his job to keep it going, to keep it on the up and up. And they got hurt really, really bad during the 2008 savings and when all the bad debts came due, when Lehman Brothers, the big stock trading groups, banks almost caved in, and essentially the result was they nationalized the banks. The government stepped in and bailed them out and everything. The land and the properties that these two guys were buying and selling in order to clean up the money and let it be counted by the IRS, they got stuck with a lot of loans for land that they couldn't sell. They couldn't get rid of it. And that I think that was the beginning of the monkey wheel, where Alec is just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and just fighting and barely keeping his head above water. And he's just trying to recover. He's just trying to get it all cleaned up. Well, then now here comes his, son, Paul, who gets drunker than a coot. Well, look, the other photograph that I put up, hold on just a minute, I'll put it up again. This other photo gives you a pretty good, no, that's not it. The one where they're drinking, there it is. This photo right here gives you a pretty good indication that, substance use was fairly acceptable. I mean, this is a picture of Alec Murdaugh. He's an old fat guy, And, you know, he shot, or I don't, you know, doing the whole drinking games and whatnot out on the boat. This, this was common for this group. And so him, you know, Paul getting drunk and driving around in the boat, nobody tried to stop him. And part of the evidence that's been presented in the courtroom is that Buster knowingly got a second ID and gave it to Paul so Paul could buy alcohol. This was not a family that was trying to stop their kids from breaking the law. They weren't trying to stop them from doing substances. They were engaging in it with them. And if you go back to the night that Mallory Beach died in the boat accident, part of the big lawsuits that came to pass were because everybody got sued that was involved in that night. The party that they went to, where all the parents were there, the parents were drunk, the kids were drunk. Everybody was drunk. And they let those kids get in that boat and leave. Then they went up the road and they pulled their boat into the dock and they got out and they went up and went into a bar. That bar got sued because they served a minor, but he had a fake ID. But more than that, they continued to give alcohol to someone who was falling down drunk. So they got sued. So on the way, before they ever got in the boat that night, Paul stopped at a gas station. He got gas, he bought some other things, and he bought beer. He bought beer with Buster's fake ID. That gas station got sued. Buster got sued for supplying the fake ID. So there were a lot of people that got sued that night that were related to the fact that you've got a minor who's fallen down drunk and he drives a boat and kills a young lady. Right? That's not confusing. That's not it's showing that that there was something significant about Paul. Now, this is what I think, and you got to remember, you know, I believe that Alec Murdaugh was in narcissistic collapse, that he was about to be revealed, and he was in a terrible panic. He had tried everything. He had tried all his old tricks. He'd gone to Palmetto Bank. They were beginning to slow down because they could see that he was at the end of his rope. They could see that there were no more tricks left. They could see that. He had tried everything that he could just to buy a little more time, because at this point now, if he gets a settlement from Maggie's estate, and he knows his dad is really sick, and I'm going to tell you, they better be looking close at the dad. Did they pull a plug on the dad? How did the dad die? Isn't it kind of interesting that he kicks the bucket just a few days after Paul and Maggie? It's very interesting. And there, too, would be an enormous financial windfall for Alec. So this idea of, well, you know, was he trying to give himself time? Was he trying to buy a few days through the murder of Paul and Maggie? And I think that was the wrong approach. I don't think that was a good idea for the storyline that this prosecution is presenting, because I don't think that's what happened. I think that on June the 7th, it all came down around him. On the morning or the early afternoon of June the 7th, it all came out. We're coming for you, Alec. You had been revealed. And everyone is going to know, not just your family. You're not just going to be known in the family as being the dumbass that brought down, you know, PMPED. The whole state is going to know what you did, because you involved Palmetto. You involved Forge Consulting, the big investment firm. Everyone will know, and the Murdaugh name will be poop. And so as he's now having this realization, they're on to him. No one will give him any money. There's nowhere to turn. He is alone. He is abandoned, betrayed, alone, and nothing. And what caused it? What actually caused it? Because I think he'd been at this game a long time. I think he'd been doing these money transfers, skimming money off the top of large settlements. I think this was his MO for a long time. But what happened? Remember, the paralegal said that after Mallory Beach was killed, after the boat accident, his personality completely changed. He began spending more time in the office. The doors closed. He was moody. He was angry. Why? Why would that bother him so badly? He's a big, rich, fancy guy. He's insured up to his eyeballs. Let him get a judgment. His insurance company's going to pay. So why? Why did he get so freaked out? Because he knew that all those investigators, all those lawsuits, they were coming with flashlights. They were coming with flashlights, and they were going to be looking at the numbers. They were going to be looking at the money. They were going to be looking at any little nook and cranny they could find. He knew that was coming because that's the kind of thing he would do to other people. That's what he would do to other companies when they were suing them for their clients. He knew the jig was up. They were going to uncover everything. He knew that. And he learned that it was finally coming on June the 7th. That was the day he learned it. The jig was up, was finished. So imagine being the guy. Now, another witness said that Maggie worshiped the ground Alec walked on for a long time. She thought he was so great, and she was arrogant and thought that she was so great because she was married to him, and that he was making more money in the law firm than any other attorney. May not have been by mistake. He may have been setting up these judgments on purpose, like a housekeeper falling downstairs. But regardless of, my conjecture is accurate or not on that point, the point is that Maggie was, she thought they were living large. She thought they were rich and fancy, and she had the most successful husband, and things were going great. But were they? Because we're going to find out that she was living in the beach house. She had left him. She wanted out. She told her friend that he had called and said, please come over. Please go with me to see Dad. He's dying. It's only right. And that she was somehow lured on that day. So my question is, did he call her after he talked to the paralegals and his brother, and it all came out about him stealing the money? Did he contact her before? Like, at what point did he contact her? So he ends up down then at the dog kennels, and you can hear he's irritated with the dog. Buster's showed up with the chicken, and maybe that frustrated him. But I'm going to tell you what I think. I really believe he blamed Paul. I really believe that. And I don't think that's accurate. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Paul is to blame. I think Paul was a young man that was doing what everybody else was doing in his sphere. They were all drinking. They were all partying. It's what they did. It was a lifestyle. He just happened to be the guy driving when the boat wrecked, right? But I think for Alec, I think in his mind, he was thinking, if it wasn't for that damn boat wreck, if only we hadn't had the boat wreck, The boat wreck is what brought this whole thing down. We've been doing this for 20 years. Nobody's ever questioned us. We've been doing this for 20 years. Nobody's ever wondered, gotten curious, nothing. And because of that damn boat wreck, now that wasn't exactly correct, but we're talking about a man who supposedly was using opiates, who was in debt to the tune of millions of dollars he'd never be able to pay back. He knew he was going to end up losing his law license if he got caught. He knew he was at the end of his rope. Done. And I think he blamed Paul. I really do. Rationalizing, being furious, being angry. I think he blamed Paul. I think he blamed Paul, and he had a temper tantrum. He had a temper tantrum. It's not a mistake that Paul rides around with 2 guns in his truck. A shotgun and one of these blackout, blah, 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 whatever they call it. That's not a mistake. It's not a coincidence. Did he go grab that shotgun because he was going to kill that dog that brought up another chicken that he was going to have to deal with? I think this guy was a guy that was at the end of his rope. I think every available bit of coping resources that he knew had been used up, and he was at the end of his rope. And that damn dog brought up that chicken, and he just saw red. He just freaked out because he couldn't deal with not one more problem. And then I think he turned it on Paul. I think he blamed Paul. I think there was a shouting match. I think he told Maggie, we are broke, man. We are flat ass broke. Broke. Like as broke can be. You don't own anything, Maggie. You don't own the house. You don't own the land. They're coming for everything. Everything. Again, remember, they found her footprints and she was walking back and forth. They said pacing along the shed, pacing. Why? When we hear her voice in the audio recording, she's not in distress. She thinks it's funny. She says, oh, look, he's got a guinea. No, he's got a chicken. And both Paul, in a funny way, but you can hear the irritation in Alec's voice. Is she pacing because he says, we're broke, we have nothing, and she's in meltdown trying to get it straight in her head, what's happening? Maybe she's pacing because she's afraid. Maybe he shot Paul first, and then there was a period of time before he actually then shot her. They claim she was running away when he shot her. But I don't think that he sat around and said, I need to buy time. I don't think he was even capable of that level of rational thought that morning. I really don't. I think he was overwhelmed and just didn't know. And I think he exploded in emotion. I think he held Paul responsible for all of it. The boat wreck, causing all the investigations. The investigations is what revealed his crimes, and it was all coming down on him. So I think that the prosecution had to introduce the information about the financial distress because it all came to pass on June the 7th. He had been putting it off for a long time, since at least March, but I think he was scared before then, but that was when it really got, difficult. They began asking questions about him. So he knew that it was coming, but knowing that it's coming and then being in the middle of it, it's two different things, right? And if he had been, here's another thing, if he was actually taking opiates that day on June the 7th, and it's very likely he was, can we be honest? if he legitimately did have an opiate addiction, and I know some people are a bit skeptical about that, and they feel like maybe that's more lies and manipulation. I don't know. I'm not going to make a judgment on it, but let's just play devil's advocate and say, okay, we're going to accept that he had an opiate addiction. If that's true, then we're pretty sure that what would have been his primary coping agent if he was an opiate addict? Opiates, right? I mean, that would have been what he would have been trying to use to try to feel better as his level of stress and anxiety exploded inside of him, right? There are actually, so the Batman shooter in Aurora, Colorado, he was actually taking very, very high doses of prescription pain pills when he did the shooting. There are a lot of these mass shooters that are high on opiates at the time, and you say, but why would they do that? Well, they get it makes them very, very detached, right? They're really detached. So it can get them into a position where maybe they're capable of doing outrageous acts that they never would do without feeling numb. Kind of like the ultimate, courage in a bottle, right? It's just a pill bottle instead of a, beer bottle. So I'll tell you, there are some things that, some of the witnesses have said on stands that make me think that maybe what they're saying about the opiates is correct. For example, they say that, Alec never came in early, that when he worked in the afternoons and at night. And that's fairly consistent with the lifestyle of an opiate addict. They do tend to, want to enjoy their high. And so they don't want to fall asleep. They want to try to stay awake. But then because they stay awake until 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, then they sleep very, very late in the morning. And sometimes don't get up until like noon or so. So that, that would be consistent. He had a fairly one of the paralegals said that his office was really messy, that there was no rhyme or reason, that there was a great deal of clutter, and he would get mad and tell people stay out of his office, asking a paranoid kind of who's been in my office. Again, all those things would be fairly consistent with someone who is like a functional addict. Yeah, they're abusing drugs, they're getting high, they're getting messed up, but they're still kind of sailing along in their career, and they're, taking care of family and whatnot, but not very good, right? They're really disorganized. They don't remember things. They miss, important dates. They don't pay bills on time, that kind of thing. One of the witnesses made the statement, that Alec has to have money, that it's impossible. The forensic accounting that was done, the amount of money that had been put into his hands illegally, they didn't even include the amount of money he made legitimately in the 20 years leading up to this, Shakespearean drama, but just the illegal money in that short period of time, that there is no accounting for him spending that money. That when they look at all the receipts, things he's purchased, things he's accounted for, his assets, the bill, daily and weekly bills, he didn't spend the money. He did not spend it. It's somewhere. But and the guy was saying he hid it. It's someone's got access. We think it's probably Buster, right? That would be our guess. It's that Buster knows where the money is. But that brings me back to what I started with tonight, and that was maybe that money he's cleaning for people. Maybe he is part of an organized crime syndicate. And that is his job, is to clean that money. And he did mess up and lose some of the money. And so he was, on the hamster wheel, trying to get it all paid back, trying to get it put back where it needed to be. And it's kind of consistent with the bomb threat today. And that's what I wanted to show you. If you go to the recording where they come over and they tell the defense table that there's been a bomb threat, Jim says, "Really?" Or like, "You're kidding," something like that. But if you look at Alec Murdaugh, when it all happens, he smiles. Why? So just, I know it's a lot of information, but they have to, if they can prove that there was a reason that a so-called family man would kill his child and his wife in a fit of rage, then they have to do that. That's just what they have to do. Remember, I think Chris Watts killed Shanann and his 2, or technically 3 children. He killed them because he was being revealed to be a cheat and a liar. Money trouble. It's an age-old problem, y'all. There's nothing special or unique about this Murdaugh thing. It's graft and corruption and the love of money. It's a pattern that gets repeated over and over throughout generations in history. People panic when they've been behaving in a way that is counter to what their mask is. And when they're about to be revealed, if they're a narcissist, if they haven't come to terms with their identity, if they don't have effective coping skills, then they will act out erratically to try to save face. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I'll think, maybe it was this murder-suicide thing. Maybe he thought he was going to kill Paul and Maggie and then kill himself to save them from humiliation, poverty. I don't know. But I really, really believe in my heart that it was a good thing to be able to introduce the financial crimes, graft and corruption. I think that I know that they did do a psychological evaluation on Alec Murdaugh. I know that happened. That has not been introduced into the testimony just yet, right? We haven't heard about it. That would be something I'd be really interested in knowing, if he got diagnosed with the personality disorder. His "aw shucks, good old boy, I'm just a family man." He probably felt like he was a family man. He probably enjoyed his "aw shucks" moments. He probably liked that. But listen, a real family man, a person who's doing it because they're devoted to the people they love, they don't run around and betray their lifelong best friends, their business partners. This guy betrayed anyone and everyone that's ever come within his sphere of influence. Legit. This guy doesn't have an ounce of integrity. Not an ounce of integrity. So it is easy for me to imagine a scenario where he has been engaging in graft and corruption for a very long time, and the boat accident ended up bringing lots of eyes and private investigators down around him and all his shady business dealings, and it all came out. And because it came out as a result of the death of Mallory Beach and the resulting lawsuits, because of that, he held Paul responsible. And he had a temper tantrum. He was in narcissistic collapse, in my opinion, and he reacted. The video I put up of him hearing his voice on that recording at the kennel, the title of that is Regret. And I said, this is the first time we're seeing the real man. He regrets that. He regrets that he killed them. Allegedly. I don't after hearing all the financial stuff, I don't think this was a plot, a cold-blooded plot to buy time. I think it was a man between a rock and a hard place, and he had a temper tantrum. He freaked out. Crystal says it was a hired hit. Killing Maggie and Paul does nothing. After, or Alec would have to be killed to stop the actions. He wasn't going to stop. Family was killed. He would have fought. Yeah, no, I'm going to tell you something else too. Why do you guys think? I mean, just think for a second. Why was everybody terrified when they got the news? Even Buster's friend, or not Buster's friend, Paul's friend. Even Paul's friend who was staying at his apartment, when he found out that Paul and Maggie had been killed, he said that people were calling him saying, you need to get out of that apartment. They're coming for you. Get out. We've heard that story over and over and over, that people were terrified that the killers were going to come for them. Why? Why? Well, because if it was a mob hit, right? If it was a mob hit, if Alex was in it, he owed them a ton of money. He wasn't able to get it out free and clear, and now it was all going to court. Maybe they were going to take out everybody. And that is what it sounds like from some of those people, isn't it? But I don't know, Crystal. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of people that believe that it was an organized or a professional job, right? And Lord knows this man had made some enemies, right? This guy made so many enemies. There was cartel, Crystal. And the cartel started with grandparents. It was a long-standing family relationship between Alec Murdaugh, his father and his grandfather, and the Bulwares. No, the family members didn't seem scared, but the people that knew them seemed scared. Like maybe there was a lot of rumor. Maybe there was a lot of people saying, hey, I think they're in organized crime, right? But I agree. I mean, you didn't have John Marvin and his wife. They weren't packing up and leaving town, right? I mean, that I agree. But some of the business partners were, some of the best friends were terrified. I don't think I read that specific. Instantly, hi, Dr. Latina. Good to see you. Um, I don't know that I have. Have I read that he was involved with the Bloods drug trafficking? I don't think I've read that specifically. What I know has been more historical, that the family relationships were in place and the mechanisms for running the alcohol and the marijuana and all that it's still there in place. There is suggestion that they were moving things like fentanyl, but I don't know if they specifically named Bloods, and I don't know that. The big guy. Um, I don't know. I don't think it was a professional hit, Barbara. And I did for a while. I did believe that for a while. But I don't believe it now, and that's for one reason only. Because the recording shows that he was there at the kennel with them. He was there. He lied about that in a big, huge way, multiple times. And he kind of tried to suggest to the nurse for her to lie for him, right? So no, I believe he did it. I believe he was there. He did it, and he did it as a result of a temper tantrum. You think there's a Jeffrey Epstein connection? Do you think he's that important? I'm not sure he's that important. I think he's a big fish in a little pond. Yeah, I do too, Crystal. Yep. Yes, Gregory, it was sloppy, right? Yeah, I agree. I have a citation on Bloods. Wow. I hadn't read that, Amy. Also the twisted mind from all the drug use. But remember, all things being equal, the simplest explanation generally ends up being the most accurate. Although there are some sensational things that happen in the world, right? I mean, occasionally things are kind of crazy. But I think in this situation, all of it ties together in a nice little bow. They called him in, they told him on June the 7th, they knew what he'd been up to, it was all coming out. Um, his wife seemed like she was alienated and in the process of trying to, get away. We'd heard a lot about Paul was thinking about, that he was spending most of the time with his mother at the beach house. Um, it yeah it seems like a fairly typical tale of a man getting backed into a corner and then reacting, lashing out. I, that makes sense to me, Blonde PT, because there have been multiple people. I mean, the paralegals were calling each other, are you safe? Stay away. They were watching cars driving by outside. What does that sound like to you? That's not normal, is it? That's not normal. No, I think there was a lot of suggestion. I think there was a lot of fear because they knew that Alec had been hanging out with the Bulwares. He and Maggie were great friends with them. I think they all knew that he was up to something funny. No, Moselle was mortgage. Moselle had two mortgages on it, and he was in the process of trying to get a third mortgage, and both mortgages were illegal. Um, so the beach house was mortgaged. Everything was mortgaged. Everything was gone. There was nothing. There was nothing he could do. He was done. It was game over. It's like the end of the monopoly where you've all your properties are turned over, you can't use them, you can't collect any rent on them, you don't have any cash, and then you land on somebody's park place. It's done. There's not You don't even need to count it up. You're just finished, right? All right. Okay, so that's my opinion, my thoughts on this whole thing about introducing the financial misdeeds. I think it was necessary to paint a picture that illustrated the level of stress that this man was operating in, and that he had dug himself so badly, so deep into this hole that he had basically ruined his life, the partner's life. I mean, the law partner, the law partner's lives, the investment company, his best friend. He wiped them. He wiped everybody out. Even, the CFO said, the law firm made good on the settlements that he stole from people. So at least the people that had been harmed, they got their money. But then that left the law firm defunct, right? They didn't have any money left over. So it was a highly lucrative law firm, and overnight it's gone because they have to cover the stolen money that Alec did. So he destroyed a lot of people. I mean, these are the actions of a sociopath, right? He destroyed everybody. He didn't care who he hurt. He was being a big shot, playing the game. He picked his proceed to jail card. Don't pass go. Don't pick up $200, right? Yeah. So I think it was a good thing that they were able to bring in the financial stuff. And I think that when it comes time to do the closing, I think they'll have it organized and tie it all together into a nice little bow. And I think part of that whole total picture is this is a man who betrayed lifelong friends, family, business partners, all for his own selfish needs. Don't ever think he wouldn't be capable of shooting his family. That's how I think it's going to come out. Oh, it's such a path of destruction. The one paralegal called him Alec the Whirling Dervish, right? I think he's more like Hurricane Alec. I think he's more like a Cat 5 that he just wiped out anyone that was associated with him. They got hurt really bad, financially, personally. He he's the very definition. If you go into the DSM and you read narcissistic personality disorder, which is generally the diagnosis that is provided for so sociopathy or psychopathy. There's also antisocial personality disorder, and very often narcissistic and antisocial will be diagnosed together, right? Go read the diagnostic criteria for those two classifications. It paints a picture of Alec Murdaugh, of all of his crimes and betrayals. Y'all are so funny. Yeah, I agree about the female prosecutor. She's really great, Stuffed Banana. She really. One of the things I think that makes her so great is how logical she is, right? She presents the information in this really well organized but very, very pithy language. So, and that's what it's going to take, I think, because there's so much information. I think when they do the closing, they need to just stay away from all the adjectives and adverbs. They just need to lay out a timeline, clear, simple, and then end with this guy was freaking out and he had betrayed everyone. And yeah, he had the capability, he had the capacity to end their lives. So, all right. Blonde PT, I said a while ago, we know that he did have a psychological evaluation, but we haven't heard anything. Nobody has said anything on the stand yet. So that's kind of what I'm waiting on, is to see. But I think that maybe that maybe end up being the last witness, if it's a doozy, and it could be a doozy, you know. Oh yeah, the 404B caregiver. She was terrified, wasn't she? God, it broke my heart. I felt so bad for her. He burned every bridge. There was nowhere to turn. Nowhere to turn. Medical examiner has not testified yet. Yep. They're waiting for some reason, so must be big. All right. I'm done. Whew. It's been a long day. I'm telling y'all, I had to force myself to go live. I was like, I gotta do this. I have to do. I'm so tired. So, oh no, he would never turn himself in. No way. Uh-uh. He was consuming anyone around him that he thought he could get something out of. Oh, I think it is. I think it's very creepy, Gemma. I agree, but I thought it was really creepy that Chris Watts could identify that he had put his children in oil tanks and then ate pizza. That was creepy too, right? Totally against what a normal human being, how a normal human being would react in that moment. So all he was doing when he laid down with his mom to hold her hand, the only reason he's doing that is to establish an alibi. No other reason. I promise. And if there's blood in the Suburban, you know what? I don't think he was expecting them to come in with the information from the computer in the cars. Did y'all? Do you think that took him by surprise that they could figure out what they did? That the car was on for about a minute? He looked pretty shook. And Scott Peterson, there you go. Came in, took a shower, ate some chicken. Yep. Oh, thank you, Ellen. And he washed off at the kennel. That's where all the water came from. What is omerta? Omerta? Omertia? Yeah, you can look at that prosecutor. He can't even hardly look at Alec. He hates his guts. Yeah, I thought he looked shook when they were talking about the info about the car's computers. Okay, I gotta go to bed, y'all. Y'all are awesome people, but I wish I could stay and chit chat all night. But ooh, it was a long day today. It's gonna be a longer one tomorrow, so I gotta go to bed. All right. Um, I'll try to peek in tomorrow and try to keep up with the testimony as the day goes by. But I know there'll be no way I'll go live tomorrow night because it'll be so late, when I finish. But I promise, I will be here Friday. All right. And we'll wrap it all up Friday and talk about the whole week and see where we are. How's that? All right. I hope you all have a good evening. And if you don't mind, I'd appreciate if you would do a thumbs up on your way out and leave a comment under the video. And I'll see you on Friday. Thanks for being